For nearly 1,000 years, there was a sword that other swords simply couldn't match. Legend said it could slice clean through a scarf of falling silk, shear a lesser blade in half, and still keep an edge sharp enough to split a single hair. Its surface carried a strange, flowing pattern, like water frozen into metal. Then, around 300 years ago, the people who made it simply stopped. The recipe vanished. And for the next 3 centuries, no one could reliably reproduce it. Not mastersmiths, not modern scientists with microscopes. This is Damascus steel. The name comes from the city it was traded through, but the steel itself was born far to the east. The blades became the stuff of myth during the Crusades, where European knights reportedly met blades that cut straight through their own swords and armor. Strip away the tall tales, though, and something real remains. These blades were extremely hard, so they took a vicious edge, yet they were also tough, so they didn't shatter. Most steel forces you to choose one or the other. Damascus somehow did both. And then there was the pattern. Smiths gave the patterns names, like the ladder and the rose. It wasn't etched on or painted. It came from inside the metal itself. That pattern was the fingerprint of something happening at a scale no one back then could even see. The secret didn't start in Damascus at all. It started in southern India and Sri Lanka, with a material called Wootz. Iron makers there sealed iron, charcoal, and certain leaves and wood inside clay crucibles, and heated them until the metal melted and soaked up carbon. What cooled at the bottom was a small cake of remarkably high carbon steel, far more carbon than the ordinary iron of the time. These cakes were traded west across the whole medieval world, and smiths in the Middle East forged them into blades. So we know, roughly, what they used. The mystery, like so many lost technologies, was never the ingredient list. Sometime in the 1700s, the blades simply stopped coming. Smiths who had made flawless Damascus their entire lives suddenly couldn't. The pattern wouldn't form. The quality collapsed. An entire craft died inside a generation or two. And the strangest part, the smiths themselves didn't fully understand why. For a long time, the easy answer was secrecy. The methods were passed hand to hand, never written down. So when the chain broke, the knowledge was gone. But that doesn't explain why smiths who already knew the method couldn't just keep going. The deeper answer points somewhere far stranger: the ore itself. The particular iron deposits they used contained tiny traces of specific elements. When those mines ran dry, or the trade shifted to different ore, the magic ingredient quietly disappeared, and no one realized the magic had ever been in the dirt. That is exactly what modern science eventually found. In the 1990s, a metallurgist, John Verhoeven, teamed up with a bladesmith, Alfred Pendry. After years of failed blades, they finally cracked it. The famous pattern depended on almost unbelievably small amounts of certain impurities, elements like vanadium, present at just a few thousandths of a percent. Those trace elements gathered into microscopic bands each time the blade was heated and forged, and those hidden bands are the visible pattern. No vanadium, no pattern, no matter how skilled the smith. The impurity anyone would have dismissed as contamination was the entire secret. Then it got even stranger. In 2006, researchers in Germany put a real 17th-century Damascus saber under an electron microscope, and found something nobody expected: structures down at the nanometer scale. They reported finding carbon nanotubes and tiny wires of iron carbide woven through the steel. In other words, smiths 1,000 years ago were unknowingly making a nanostructured material, with fire and hammers, and no idea that atoms even existed. They just knew that this ore, this fire, and this rhythm of folding made a blade like no other. Here's the part that surprises most people. Those swirly, Damascus, knives you can buy today? Most of them aren't this at all. They're made by a totally different method called pattern welding, stacking and folding layers of two steels so the boundary shows up as a pattern. It looks like Damascus, and it's genuinely skilled work. But it's a recreation of the look, not the lost crucible steel with its self-forming bands. The look survived. The original thing behind the look did not. So did we really lose Damascus steel? Like Roman concrete, the honest answer is yes and no. We never lost the basic idea of crucible steel. What we lost was the precise, accidental combination nobody knew was the real recipe, because the crucial part was invisible. When the ore ran out, the knowledge that remained was knowledge of the wrong thing. For 3 centuries, the best blades ever made were a locked door, and the key was a few atoms in the right dirt. Damascus steel is one more thing humanity built brilliantly, by feel, and then couldn't rebuild once the conditions quietly change. Next time, we go after a weapon so feared its formula was a guarded state secret, a fire that burned on water, and that no one has fully reconstructed to this day: Greek fire. Subscribe, and we'll keep digging up the things we forgot.